What is up, everybody? This is Mixlife 36. Return to 36 Chambers. Wu-Tang. Yeah, 36 episodes. We've been consistent every week making a show. So here we are, Sunday. You got Black Friday sales coming up. So Reddit's got a thread for that. So as you get a little closer to that and you don't spend all your money on flavors, you can do that. I'm joined by the illustrious Concrete River. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing okay. Just getting ready for my life to get incredibly chaotic for Thanksgiving. So that should be fun. Making sure I have some high nicotine mixes sitting around so I don't strangle anybody. You know, the usual.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, what are your plans? You going out of town or are you sticking around?
Oh, we are sticking around, but the girlfriend's parents are coming out here. So I am cooking for the better part of like 3-4 days for 4 people. It's going to be fun.
Oh, you're doing the cooking? That's cool.
Oh, yeah, I figure, I might as well be kind of useful. I can sort of cook. Why not? Let's make it happen.
Yeah, did you see Jennifer dropped a cranberry sauce recipe?
Yeah, I saw that. That looks really interesting.
I'm never a cranberry sauce fan myself, but I know there's major cranberry sauce addicts out there.
I would consider myself a cranberry sauce fan. I really would. I don't know. I don't know why people use the fucking gelatin can stuff. It's super easy to make yourself. I actually should probably give Jennifer's recipe a try because I am cranberry sauce fan. It goes really well with orange and ginger too, in case you're ever looking for a way to spice up your cranberry sauce.
My family had a thing called cranberry ice, which was like it's like an Italian icy with cranberry and sugar. That was pretty proper. I might make a vape like that one of these days.
I think cranberry is kind of underrated as a flavor in vaping. I don't know. Flavor's cranberry is fantastic, but I also don't mind a little bit of TPA cranberry. Even Capella's cranberry is pretty good too. People tend to get wrapped up in like the strawberries and like maybe even the raspberries and kind of forget about the cranberry, but it does a really good job of bringing in like a tartness to a lot of different kinds of mixes. And if you aren't looking for it, it's like kind of like a nice mystery element.
Yeah, did any of you spray kind of cranberry recipe before? Has anyone ever tried that? You're zoning.
What's up?
Have you ever seen a good cranberry recipe, like an ocean spray?
Oh, I think there was a couple of them when Perillum came out with that ocean mist thing that they had. I still haven't tried that one. I like to use cranberry with like bourbon and raspberry. I have a recipe that it's kind of marginal. I don't know. Dave called it like sad Valentine's Day because it kind of tastes like somebody dumped a bunch of bourbon over some smashed up chocolate covered raspberries. But it uses some cranberry for some extra tartness in there.
That's cool. Yeah, let's see. I was reading an article that said that the vaping industry is supposed to quadruple in by 2022, I think. So even though for us it feels, like the FDA thing kind of put the brakes on a lot of stuff, the industry is a global industry is going to, multiply. So I think there's lots of opportunities in the future, and the industry will keep growing even more. No matter what happens with the FDA, if you look at the globe, we're a pretty small country. Sometimes we think we're the biggest country in size and in power, but there's a lot of countries around the world that are going to be getting into vaping. And then I saw New Zealand's the #1 search trend for vaping. So it looks like New Zealand's starting to blow up as a country. So it'll be interesting to see how the market changes over the years and how this grows as an industry.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. I mean, I just really want to hope that in the United States the battle isn't lost in terms of regulation and stuff like that, just because states in particular and local municipalities are so dependent on tobacco revenues. So it's going to be an uphill battle to keep it from being either taxed or regulated into oblivion, essentially. Because, I mean, the government, as much as they don't want to admit it, the government through the tobacco settlement funds basically makes money off the tacit support of people being killed by cigarettes.
Right. That's true. And even like with alcohol, with like the DUI revenue and they make some good money off of the vices that they approve of. So interesting world we live in.
Yeah, that's a big problem when you start to fund your economy on like sin taxes. Like you have some sort of vested interest in keeping those kind of things going because the government gets used to the revenue.
You know what else I saw is crazy is the appeals court for, it's not every state, but it's states that include Nevada and then I think 13 others. They're saying if you have a medical marijuana card, you can't purchase a firearm because it indicates you may be a drug user, which I thought was a crazy thing. So buy your guns and then get your medical marijuana card, everybody.
Yeah, just do it afterwards. And what's funny, I live in a legal state, so I mean, I don't think that same rule would apply in like Washington.
Well, that's Nevada. Nevada's legal, so
okay.
it was. So she had got her legal medical card and then went to buy a gun, and they told her no. So then she filed a lawsuit, and then it went to appeals, and then the appeals court ruled with the gun seller. So it's interesting because it's still federally, so they're using the federal level to tell her no. So buy your guns, then get your medical card,
or just go recreational. Don't worry about the medical card. Move to some place where you can just buy it over the counter.
Yeah, it's
no
crazy.
Tracking.
I went to high school with a guy that became like a weed baron in Denver, and he's got like 20 shops, and he has a shop that's like a gas station convenience store. So you can get, it's called Gas and Grass, and you can fill up your gas tank, and then there's like a dispensary inside where you can get your bud for the night or whatever. It's funny.
I'm just saying vaping needs the positive image that marijuana has all of a sudden, apparently.
Right. That's what's happening in Canada is they're trying to lump it all together into this bill. And the bill is major restrictive for marijuana, but then it's totally cracking down on vaping so that you can't even be an advertisement vaping, like all the sexy shit they do with like the promo videos and the hot girls, all that would be put out of business because it would all be illegal.
I don't want to live in a world without vape models.
Vape models. It's crazy. Yeah, if you guys haven't ventured onto the world of Instagram vape models, it is insane. It is a whole nother world. And it's kind of like I was thinking about that. Okay, so like, you know, except for like Jennifer and Emily, like the majority of the vaping industry are guys. Like there's maybe 2 girls that show up on DIY or Die, but like the whole industry is vaping is all guys. It's like a real man's industry. And shout out to the ladies that break through. But I guess it's a way for girls that don't DIY to serve their role in vaping is to just be a trashy vape model or something. You know, there's girls, there's ladies in the industry that sell the juice. Like there's a number of influential women that sell the juice. But in the DIY world, if I pull up like the analytics on the website or the views for the YouTube, it's always 90% guys. It's the same way with the ELR stats, same way with Wayne's stuff. Ren, shout out to Ren. She's a lady of vaping, and the Double Jennifers. See, Emily knows them all. She just dropped all the names. Pippa's cool though too. Yeah, there's not that many though. What up, Vlad? I was going through ELR today, and Vlad's the only one that has 2017 recipes, and even the top like 200 recipes. He's the only one that's making notable jumps in the rankings. Like everything else is a year old, which is pretty wild. So good job, Vlad, keeping it going.
Shout out to breaking through the wall of old Cardo recipes.
Yeah, it's not easy, especially with the ratings the way they are now. It's like they're not even rated by most. I don't know what kind of algorithm he has, but it's like you could have like a 20 review recipe that's number 20, and then a 300 review recipe it's like number 50. It's got to have mixes ranked into it, like secret data. Oh, look
Can
at
I
you
just
guys.
say
They're naming all the ladies.
No, it's got the we don't screw it up. I'd also like to clarify that if somebody was going to actually offer me money to not wear much clothes and vape at a camera, I would totally do it. So we aren't anti-vape model.
Yeah.
It's a good hustle if you can get it.
Still saying that there's that many women. The audience is 90% men. So there's not. I'm not saying there's not influential women. I'm just saying that it's skewed crazy to the percent on guys. You know. Still, don't forget Smoky Blue.
Smoky Blue. I'm sorry, we shouldn't be doing that. Okay. So what have you been working on, man?
I have. Let me see. I've been making my girlfriend lots of stuff. So just nothing too crazy, but it's been fun mixing juice for her. She's on day 19, no smoking, never went back. So it's fantastic to get a clean quit from cigarettes like that. And then, you know, she's really enjoying not smelling like smoke, and because I'm mixing for her, not spending money at all for, you know, any kind of vape stuff or cigarettes. So that's good. And then I have a hot chocolate that I hate. Like same every time I make a chocolate, I hate it. Like, and I'm like, this is trash, and I set it away, and then I run out of vape to vape on, and I'll go back to it. And I'm like, oh, it's good. So it's the craziest thing. But it was supposed to be like a Mexican hot chocolate, so it has some heat, flavor heat in it, and then like a heavy cream and then some chocolates to it. I don't think I'll release it, but it's not too bad to vape on.
I tried one of those, and it turned out to be that gas station coffee mix. Because I had this crazy idea in my head that the Favora coffees taste a lot like chocolate to me, so I could get away with using some of the Favora coffees in interesting ways, and it turned out to be gas station coffee, which shout out to gas station coffee. I added some sweet cigarette to it on your suggestion, actually, for the cigarettes and coffee, and it was actually pretty good. So I still need to revisit that one.
Yeah, it's always one I've wanted to pull off, is that cigarettes and coffee. Call it like AA or something.
that fucking like 2 weeks when you're just white knuckling it and pounding coffee and chain smoking. Just I need that in a vape.
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff have you been mixing for?
Oh, well, we do have we have a whole new Christmas line of one shots that Chris and I did. So I think it's either 5. I think it's 4 or 5 for the guys over at Chef's. So England's gonna get a nice Christmas present, and those are all unreleased. And then I did a second round of the sugar cookie fluff, and then Jennifer's got a new one shot, which is like a donut and light chocolate and cookie that she just put out on e-cig Express. So that's a good one too. Yeah, we've been doing good stuff with the one shots. The beginning of the year, we had no U.S. vendors, and then now we have the recipe packs at Bull City. A number of the team have stuff at e-cig Express. We have the full deal at Wizard Labs. So we really entered the U.S. this year in a big way. So that's exciting. And then to be able to keep doing stuff with chefs is fun, because it's like, that's the second part of the one shots, is like you make them, you do the round, and then, do you get a thank you, have a great day, or do they come back and say, we want to keep working? So that's a good thing, is to, we've done summer collection, a Christmas collection last year, this Christmas collection, and then our main staple recipes. So we're up around like 20 plus one shots we've done with them. So that's been fun. So it's kind of like when you release the free recipes, it's really like you're trying to get people to see them. But then when you can do the one shots, it's like you already have that audience built in, where you're serving an audience that's there. Yeah, can we get 11 more subscribers so we can have 1,000 subs? Everybody. Chris is with his family. He's doing family time today, so that's where he is. And then let's see. Yeah, and somebody was bitching about the one shots, but like, that's what we do. It's our brand goals are to build out on the one shot market and work globally to develop recipes. So we DIY, but DIY is not our end game. Our end game is to be a global brand with the best team of mixers. So, there's always going to be people pissed because they just want it to be free, but fuck that. We're going to make money in this because that's the way to make it a viable business venture for us, where it's like, why should we be doing shitty jobs that we don't like some of the team, they're doing stuff that just sucks. So like the whole goal is to get us to a position where we can focus on mixing and actually produce, quality products, and then just also change the vape industry side and start putting out recipes that are quality based instead of just trash. Because that's the real gap that you get, is you vape. If you vape shop stuff, you're getting a lot of times like a shitty recipe, and then you get into DIY and you're working on making the best recipe possible, and then why not take that back and help fix the industry a bit? That's the goal. We launched an app this year. It's got like 1,100 downloads, which is cool. Some people love it, some people hate it, but if you hate it, I don't care. Like, it's not meant to be an end all be all app. It's meant to be useful for people that care about the stuff we do. Like, if you watch our shows, you watch the Noted show, you watch Jennifer, if you watch your Concrete Rivers flavor notes, then the app's great because it's got all that in there. And it's not going to have every recipe that we ever do, but it's going to have good recipes in it. So that's kind of thing, is like you can chase the opinions of people, but there's so many opinions, and especially in the DIY, there's a lot of people that they got a lot of shit to say, but they don't do anything. So hey, we get shit done, and we've put out, if you count the recipe packs that the teams put out and then the one shots, we're looking at like 40 products this year for DIY. And everyone on the team is dropping recipes once a week or so as well. And then Concrete's doing 365 days of flavor notes. So like, there's so much work that we're putting into this stuff, and it doesn't pay out anywhere near what you'd think. So for us to go after one shots, it's not like a crazy financial venture. The money's further down the road doing recipe developments and stuff like that. But, don't think you're going to get rich off of like one shot. It's not how it works, but what it does is it builds the brand and it builds the recognition for us as mixers. And then down the road, that's where it'll come in for us when we develop things like the Mixer Collection, which is a juice line, you know, and then that's reaching thousands, you know, because the DIY is not a big world. I mean, there's probably like, I would say 5,000 real active all the time obsessed mixers. And then you have about 10,000 Middle Eastern juice shop owners that are stealing all your recipes. And then you have, you know, people that have dabbled would be like 30,000 on the high that DIY here and there. But active is not as high as you'd think. So there's not as much volume and people mixing. You know, you guys that are in the chat right now, you're like the core gung-ho mixers. But when you look, you know, I would say, you know, a majority of these bigger groups are filled with recipe jackers, like people that are just there. You know, when you see a question that's like, hey, I want a real fruity mango vape, like you're looking at a 50-50. They're going to just make that recipe you give them and then throw it in a bottle and sell it. So you become a little more aware that, you know, and then if you go to DIY recipes main group, they're just straight up tell you in the warning, they're like, someone may steal your shit here. You have no recourse whatsoever. So it's an interesting world, but like, that's why, you know, with the one shots, you release a recipe, or at least we do. And Wayne did it with rose milk. Like I could tell he was really teetering the line between, do I give this out for free or do I just keep this locked away? And he's decided to keep it locked away, even though he did that crazy giveaway thing where he's putting recipe notes in the code and stuff like that. But it comes down to like, well, you give the recipe for free, it gets jacked. Like I've found people in Pakistan selling recipes of mine, you know, and he's dealt with that too, where it's that they're taking the work and they profit, and there's a big argument over, is it okay? And well, you put it out for free. But then the way you solve that is you switch it up where there's exclusive recipes that you put out to one shots, and then no one's going to steal that because it's, you know, even if they want to make e-juice with it, they have to buy the one shot. And then over here, you do your free recipes. And when you release those, you just know, you know, like ID10T, Emily, Koppel, those guys, like when you release a recipe, it's like a 50-50 that's going to get jacked and bottled somewhere. So that's kind of the way we do what we do. That's my rant.
We'd like to apologize to Middle Eastern shop owners everywhere. Please continue to carry the Mixer Collection.
Shots fired.
I don't know. Like if I could see a way clear to just getting paid for doing straight public DIY stuff all of the time, I would totally love to do that. But the reality of it now, I think if you want to get any sort of even minor compensation out of the amount of time and effort that you're putting into things beyond just a hobbyist level, you kind of have to go down that kind of route. And it's nice to have that sort of DIY deal. And I mean, granted, I have like one unreleased recipe out there right now for that one shot. But I mean, if somebody were to hit me up, I'd definitely talk to them, not tell them what's in it, but, you know, I'd talk to them about it, you know. It's not like state secrets or anything. It's just, trying to find some way to do something interesting, you know?
Yeah, I mean, because you spend hours doing these flavor notes, and pretty much everyone on the team has done a lot of free work, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's important to do, like this show, we make $3 for this show a month. Like so it's not YouTube famous, and Wayne just got demonetized on everything. So like where maybe he was making $100 to $1,000 a month, now he's making $0. So even though he's got 36,000 subscribers, it doesn't equate to dollars that way. So then the one shots become the only way to actually, you know, make a dollar off of it at all. You know, but I think it's a great market. I don't have a problem with it, because at the end of the day, you know, it's basically similar to the vape. The one shots are real similar to the vape juice line, where you're putting out a recipe that you think is quality, and then it's, you know, if people like it, they like it. But if it becomes like an all-day vape, that's their thing, you know. And there's people that are gonna, like with the sugar cookie fluff at e-cig Express, there are people messaging me on all the platforms, all the flavors, and on the Facebook page. They're like, we want more of this, because they start liking it. That's just an easier path than like the 10 flavors that I put into the thing. You know, it's actually more cost effective to get the one shot, just based on the amount of flavors I put in recipes. So I don't know. Yeah, it's really an interesting time for this. But I think down the road, what will happen is these one shots will get picked up as like actual vape juices. Like people will like them, or there'll be companies that want to carry that as a vape juice, different countries, not US. And then it'll be more of a licensing deal where you license the flavor out, and you know, some vape shop in Brazil who doesn't have any mixing gear, doesn't even want to get into mixing, will then, you know, buy the bulk levels of your flavor. You know, I think that's where the industry's going with that. But it isn't YouTube. Like if you guys, like, there's $0 in the YouTube game. And then, you know, there's the other thing would be like, okay, you start your own flavor line, but that's expensive as hell. You know, it's as that Wayne interview was talking about, it's like 50 grand a flavor on a low if you want to start a flavor. So then what are you doing? You're rebottling another flavor. That's not the way to go either. So
or you're trying to mix available flavors and come up with something new, which is essentially just a one shot at that point anyway.
Right. So one shot's the only real way to become, you know, commercial from you know, from that perspective. You know, the app doesn't make money. You know, Google takes 70 cents off of every dollar, and Apple does the same. So there's not a huge profitability in the industry unless you're able to pivot and become a recipe creator for commercial. That's where the money's at. You know, so all the stuff that we do DIY is, even when it's like one shots, it's all more aimed towards, you know, helping people, and then helping the mid-level people, you know, because there's a whole market in England that's just one shot people. Like they don't mix, they don't buy the flavors, they just buy one shots. So they're very you know, obsessed with that brand and stuff. Like if you go look at chefs, they've got like 71 shots. So I think that's where the market's going for sure. There's what guys do. How's everybody doing out there?
So I've been working on something.
Yeah,
it's very new, and it's a tobacco, so obviously it's going to take way too much time to steep. So I didn't follow my own advice whatsoever on trying to work on my fall flavors ahead of time, and I've been inspired by the rash of pumpkin spice recipes lately and Liquid Barn's pumpkin pie. So I have a tobacco mix right now with Gold Ducat by Inawera. So shout out to Have a Hedge. I think was the one that suggested picking up Gold Ducat after I said I really liked Red Oak. So it's Red Oak by TPA, Vanilla Butternut by Flavor West, Gold Ducat, and Liquid Barn's Pumpkin Pie. And I have to say it needs a lot more steep to figure out what's going on with it and for balancing, but it's definitely not bad. Now I finally had a time machine to put it out in October, so it was actually relevant.
You're just really early for 2018.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to sit on this shit for a year.
I got one I'm working on called Holiday Apples, and it's basically I'm going for like a spiced apple, and I was working with cream with it, but that wasn't. I didn't. I used that apple filling, and I didn't like it. It's too. It comes across too much like prepackaged apple, if that makes sense.
The Flavora apple filling.
Yeah.
It tastes like the inside of a McDonald's apple pie to me, but with extra cinnamon.
Yeah. Like an old apple pie, like the 6-hour apple pie, not the fresh one.
Are the fresh ones that much better?
No. They have guava ones down here because we're Miami flavored. So they have the McDonald's carries a guava, I guess not an apple pie, but a guava pie. And then
that's awesome. Yeah, Emily actually I think has a guava empanada recipe that would be kind of in that ballpark.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Like I would fuck up a guava empanada. That actually sounds delicious right about now.
Yeah, Liquid Barn is surprising. You know, you got to tell me how you got the free set. I'd go for that. But like, I'm on my second round of that ice cream, and that's by far my favorite ice cream. Like, I'll take that Liquid Barn ice cream over the Flavor Apprentice one, or even like Capella custard. I'm not really a fan of that after like a 4%, but the Liquid Barn. Because I like making quick mixes, you know. So I just throw together the Liquid Barn, and then just it works good. How did I come to know so much about the UK scene? Getting kind of blacklisted in the early days from the US scene. Like they were not a fan of my coming into the industry so heavily. Like I just came in and blasted it. I'm like, new website. Here's our recipes, you know, just trying to make noise. And the admins of the groups did not like somebody shaking at their castles, you know. So it definitely came down hard where they weren't a fan, you know. And you learn a lot. You learned a lot real quick about who's who. Yeah, shout out to Wayne for being definitely genuine. You know, there were people that would double speak and say something to your face, and then behind the scenes talking shit, all kinds of vape drama. Yeah. If you've read the thread on ELR, and it was really just me trying to, you know, come out. I was so excited, like so green, I guess you could say, like just so. Oh my God, I love DIY. I'm so excited. I'm going to jump in this whole thing, you know, dive in, and woof, you know, it was heavy. So really what happened, Sub Vapes, is we were relying on the existing structures, right? So we were relying on the groups that existed. We were trying to work in those groups and be a part of those groups. And then that was fine until we started to get bigger and bigger. And then we weren't members of those groups. Or we were, but we weren't allowed to post in those groups. So it went from being like a happy family to like a sketchy family. And then, you know, around really last year, like September, we just broke from that and had to basically start from scratch, because we were at like 20,000 visitors a month. We were killing it, but we were killing it using those groups and using the existing avenues to communicate. So then we had to like start from zero and build our own thing separate. And we took a huge hit, like down to like 2,000 a month type of thing. And the people that came around when we were doing that, and they were like, hey, you can come over here, were the guys in the UK. And it was Vaping Home Mixers, and it was the Chefs group. So we just went there and we started posting our recipes and stuff there and posting our resources and things there. And it opened the door where we started working with Lewis and Carl, and those guys are great. And so we really had to quit the US. We had to go over to the UK. We had to get big in the UK and then come back to the US was how it happened. And then, you know, now we have a brand, and the brand's bigger than most. So it's you can't say, I mean, you could say I'm a shitty mixer, but I've got the data and the products and the stats to argue against it. Like in the beginning days, they would accuse me of stealing recipes because my recipes were solid right off the bat. I didn't steal shit. I just figured out how to mix. And so you had that where you were getting like accused of stealing recipes, and you're just dropping really good recipes. So it just took us having to go to the UK, and, you know, shout out to those guys. They were always cool. Like that was, if I started anywhere, I'm glad we started with Chefs, and I'm glad we, you know, got big in the UK and built our brand there. Cause then after that, it was like, it was really hard to phase me after that. Like you can talk shit. You can talk shit about the app. You can say whatever you want. Like, hey, we're going to start our show. Too bad. We're going to launch an app. Too bad. Hey, we got more one shots. Too bad. Like, doesn't really matter now. So it was really when I stopped looking for approval from who I looked up to. There were people I looked up to, but it was like they weren't worth looking up to, you know. But, you know, Wayne is a genuine guy. He always was cool with us, and cool with us knowing we were competition, cool with us knowing that we were coming in and tapping on the door of his market that he'd cornered, but still cool. So it turned out to be, it was a cool story how it happened, you know. And then 1 year later, we have a juice line in Canada, and then we got over 21 shots. So it's an interesting story, but like if you're trying to break in this market, it was hard. You had to really, you know, deal with a lot of things when we started, where now a lot of that stuff isn't the same because all the flavors, which was really not a big player, now is, which has allowed for a lot of disruption, you know, like where you can come on all the flavors and get noticed, and all of a sudden you're making waves and stuff where you wouldn't have been able to get through on ELR or in the forums there or in the main groups. So I think it's great. I remember they used to talk trash about the DIY group, you know, but now it's almost as big as that group. And when I joined that group, it was like 4,000 people, you know, now it's 14,000. So it's a lot better of a market when it comes to not having to be approved to be a good mixer. You don't have to have anyone's approval nowadays. If you're a good mixer, you're good.
Well, communities tend to crystallize after a while too, and I think a lot of the issue is that, you know, these people have been, I mean, shout out, they've been like doing DIY since like 2012, 2013. They definitely have their own community sort of locked in and set, and it was nice to see something sort of come in on the outside and be that disruptive. And, you know, if the ATF community crystallizes and starts blocking people out, something new is going to come out that's going to be even more exciting. It's just the way these things work, you know. You can either try to fight it or you can try to be a part of it, and you can just admit that you always have something to learn. So when somebody comes out with new ideas or wants to do something interesting, it's a lot better to sort of be on that train rather than just trying to throw your elbows, trying to keep people off your little tiny piece of land.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, that's the thing, is like when you come in it, you think like, wow, this is amazing. Everybody is into this thing I'm into. You know, it's like the guy's doing the flavor wiki. Like he doesn't realize he's stepping on toes, kind of, you know.
And I mean, that's awesome though. Like, step on those toes, do your thing.
Yeah.
You know, if it takes off, that's awesome. But don't think that you're wasting any effort as long as you're learning something.
Yeah. You know, and he's stepping on toes, and that was the same thing with me. Like, I was stepping on toes, but didn't know it. You know, you just think you're bringing new resources to the game, and you don't realize that, you know, they do it this way. You know, so if you're new to this and you're trying to be seen, just do it. Fuck it. Just put your stuff out there.
Just
You know?
do your thing. Damn the torpedoes. Just do what you want to do. You know, just you gotta tip over the apple cart at a certain point to get noticed, and if you want to make any money out of it, you're gonna have to get noticed. So I mean, go for it.
Yeah, and then even there was a time when Jennifer created like a side project, and her and I were supposed to do work together earlier, and some of those people were like, "Oh, well, we won't work with you if you work with him." And I was like, you know what? That's fine. You know, hopefully you and I can work together in the future on a project. And it was the way she handled it and the way I handled it that allowed us to become, you know, team members later on down the road. So like when those people, even, you know, they kind of showed their cards, and then she came later and was like, you know what, I'd rather work with this guy. And that's how, you know, e-juice makers has kind of grown. You know, the mix team's 12 of the, some of the like what I say are like the best mixers around, you know, and some I'd add more, but right now with 12, it's like that's enough where people are, you know, getting, I want the 12 that are on the team to have opportunity and you know, chances to actually make money. And when you go over 12, you're going to get into a spot where it's like not everyone's going to get a chance to eat. But with 12, it's like, you know, to be able to give the 10 an e-juice one-shot line with this Wizard Labs deal is great, because like everyone that was, you know, a lot of those guys never even had a one-shot. So, you know, now they got skin in the game. Now they're able to, you know, make at least $1 or see actual profit. Like you got a one shot now where like all the work you've done for the flavor notes and things. Well, now you have something that you can actually make $1 on, and it makes it worthwhile. You know,
got that taco money, man.
Taco money, yeah. You know, most of the team have families, or they have people that rely on them. You know, some of the team have kids. So it's like, these are people that, yes, it's good they do everything for free, but it's also good that, you know, if they can put $1 into their family or pay some bills with it, it makes sense, you know. And that was kind of the goal of e-juice makers, was I wanted a team, and then I wanted the team to become successful, not just me become successful.
Roy's over here. Yeah, baby, counting tacos. Yeah, let's get those tacos. Eventually, I'll be able to afford the 3 taco combo. You know, I'll get the rice and beans on the side. I'll be able to splash out for it.
They're like, "Would you like the combo?" You say, "Why not?"
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I got that one-shot money. Here you go.
You know, but yeah,
you know, at the same time, though, you know, we got to clarify, though. I mean, this isn't really a rational way to start making money. So we're obviously all here because we actually care about what we're doing, too.
Right. The money's secondary. Like, this isn't a dollar chase. This is more like you find something you really love to do, and you're like, well, you know, like they say, if you find something you love to do, you never have to work a day. You know, and that's kind of the, all right, I love doing this. Is there a way that I could make a job out of this? You know, and not really yet, but you know, at the same time, it's like the goal is to serve the DIY community first, right? And keep doing that. That's why we all keep releasing recipes and doing flavor notes and updating the app and doing this show, is like to help people learn, right? And then the secondary goal, which is the business side, is to find new ways to, you know, because DIY is really, you could see in that joke video Wayne put up where they just kind of mocked DIY. You know, they're like, well, hell yeah, I want flavor art marshmallow. I don't want smoky, nasty Capella marshmallow. So that video to me, I was like, I get him. I get what he's saying. You know what I'm talking about? You see that, the Dash vapes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
yeah.
But it's really, there's going to come a point when all the vapors are going to be like, all right, there's got to be better flavors. You know, that's why Philip Rock's stuff was selling so well, is because it hints at a world where the recipes matter.
Where somebody actually gives a damn.
Yeah. And they're not just, because when you're making there's a whole factor you guys don't think of when you make DIY, which is how much profit would come out of this mix. Like rarely people are thinking like, oh, I'm going to use strawberry ripe instead of, juicy strawberry flavor art and strawberry smash Flavora, because Flavora is going to cost an extra 30%. We don't really think of that because it's so cheap to do. But when you start to produce the juice and making money is the number one thing, the majority sacrifice the quality. So being able to develop quality recipes on the vape shop side is a whole nother world, a whole market that's been, untapped so far. Shout out to all the ladies in the chat.
They all show up after you start underestimating the amount of women in DIY.
Well,
they gotta just prove us wrong over here.
But it's just the statistics. I'm not saying that that the guys are better at mixing. I'm just saying that if you go to analytics on like a restaurant site or a normal website, it's like 50-50. Sometimes 60% women, 40% guys. You go to the analytics on an e-juice site, it's 85% to 90% guys. And that's because I think there's probably, the women are going to get into it. There's still a market there, because I don't think it's the women don't want to DIY. I think it's an emerging market. I think there'll be more. I think, these groups will all grow exponentially over time.
Got some really complex motions happening in the chat over here. I'm a little lost. People are standing on shoulders. There's salutes. I don't know. I'm just glad to see it.
Rory has sold one shot for sure.
Hell yeah.
to himself.
Yeah, and be on the lookout for sample packs coming soon for those too. If you don't want to get up to 30 mils on each one, Wizard Labs is going to be putting out some sample packs if you want to pick up multiples at one time, 10 milliliters of each. Yeah,
you guys should try. That's a great thing. Like, I'm buying that for sure, just because you get 10 different recipes that are all basically shake it up and you're done, and then it's 10 different recipe styles. Like, we all mix different. Like I mix sweet. I mix stuff that tastes like a vape shop, the good stuff, like a better version of vape shop stuff, where Christopher's like flowers and complex, woods and oaks and things like that. And I'd say you're really good at pairing, like finding the best flavor and pairing that. I think Rory's similar. Too Tall is really similar to that, where he makes like vape shop stuff, just like what you wish a vape shop bottle would taste like.
So we had a question from Stars and Clouds Creative. Do you think tobacco companies will hunt us mixers down in the future once they're done buying up vape shops? If so, do you think you would consider going to the dark side? So for me personally, I don't know. I really like what I do on the DIY side of things. And if I can figure out a way to actually string together some decent cash by mixing, I mean, I'm not opposed to doing basic mixing work without, the Concrete River, whatever that's worth, brand attached to it. But you know, my passion's sort of more on the weird side. So if somebody wants to pay me to do normal stuff, that's cool. But I'm still glad that I have that kind of outlet for the stuff that I actually want to do.
Yeah, they're already doing that. If you go, so Philip Morris, I'm pretty sure all of Philip Morris got bought by British American Tobacco, but if not, it was just their vaping division. So they call it something else. But if you go to like Philip Morris, they are already hiring flavorists behind the scenes to work on vape flavors and stuff. So that already exists. And British American Tobacco bought, I think they bought all of Philip Morris, but the reason they bought it was to get the vaping division. So they have secret divisions at the tobacco companies that are already working on the vape thing. That's the thing. The FDA regulations were a tobacco move designed to slow the emerging market that was vaping, right? So they're getting, corporations move slow. Like if you ever worked in a corporation versus startup, the corporation needs to be approved by like 4 managers to do it. You want to do this project, it has to be approved by budgeting, it has to be approved by the marketing, it has to be approved by the product team. So the time that they get something done takes a long time. And they got outpaced by the vaping industry. So their only way to fight back was these regulations. No, they weren't expecting, the vaping guys just to go crazy and keep pushing products they weren't supposed to, but they haven't really slowed the market. They speed bumped the market, but they didn't like stop it. But that was basically a power grab, so the FDA comes out and says, you can't make new products, right? But then the tobacco companies are like, well, here's all our new products. Like their smokeless tobacco device, which basically smokes a cigarette by vaping it. And so that the goal of this whole thing was to slow vaping down so that tobacco companies could catch up and then release vaping products. They're trying to release, because they know they're spending the same, the most money on the studies, and they're seeing that vaping isn't bad for you. They're seeing that their market's going to get regulated soon enough. So they're all making transitions to vaping. That's why you have the tobacco company buying, I think it's Og Vape, something like that. So they just bought a whole vaping company. And yeah, you'll definitely see more vaping brands being bought up by big tobacco. But then the thing, there's an issue that is, once you kind of switch to vaping, like there's a disdain with the tobacco companies where you're like, these guys kind of, it's like you'd hate your crack dealer for getting you hooked on crack. It's like the same kind of thing. Is like you hate the tobacco company. You're not a fan of it. Like, would you vape Marlboro e-cigarettes? Probably not. Like you just be like, nah, screw the tobacco company. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want to give them more money. They already took enough of my money. So that's what the tobacco company's plans are, is to basically, or at least their thinking is that you're going to buy, the gas station vape stuff instead of, the devices that we have access to. And that's, if you look at the whole thing, that's what it's designed to do, is limit the ability of vaping to grow, so that the tobacco companies could come out and say, hey, look, we invented a product, it's the e-cigarette, we invented it, buy it from 7-Eleven. So that's really the thinking behind it all.
They're not going to be happy until we're all vaping on fucking Enjoy, $10 non-refillable e-cigarettes.
And the bullshit too is that they're like, the news campaigns, like all the popcorn lung shit, all that stuff, tobacco industry pushed. And it's crazy to see how many, like, Vice News and the Now This and just all these like brands that you'd think are like not paid, right? Coming out
Yeah.
with the same kind of messaging across the board that if you dig deep, you're like, oh, this is all bullshit info.
Well, the thing about Vice that really absolutely burns me is the only reason Vice isn't into vaping is because they like to make fun of vapors more than anything else. It's just a cool thing with them.
Right. But it's like, it's almost like when all this info is coming out, it all the anti-vaping stuff that comes out, right? That's it's coming from brands that you genuine or like me personally would think were like reliable, right? So then you have these other people looking at it and they're like, well, this is reliable info, but they don't realize they're part of a huge marketing anti-vaping campaign that's just to keep them hooked on tobacco. Like you said, most of the government cities and taxes and everything are paid for by tobacco. So it's
So
interesting.
I mean, the thing is, if you take any rational actor and you say, hey, you got to spend this, we're going to give you all this money to prevent like tobacco use. But if you prevent the cigarette use too much, you're not going to get paid. They're just going to dump all that money into like anti-vaping stuff. You know, it's just the rational response of those government agencies at this point. And vaping's being targeted because really at the end of the day, they don't want to go after their bread and butter.
Right. It's a big money industry. I mean, huge. Like it's
So
vaping is like a tiny little this big compared to big tobacco. It's this big where they've got like if you look at the people that are in the FDA and you look at the scientists that are putting out these reports, half of them have been lobbyists for tobacco companies, like the American Heart Association, which you would be like, oh, that's great. That thing gets funded by like the butter cow producer guys. It gets funded by, so they're going to come out and be like, oh, coconut oil is bad for you. Not because it is, but because they're funded by butter. You know, they're going to say, oh, we don't know about vaping. It's too early to tell because they've worked for tobacco companies or pharmaceutical companies selling Chantix or whatever that shit is. You know, so it's crazy how we as like, we're kind of inadvertently knocking on the door of the giant. You know, we're really putting pressure on a big industry that we don't even understand and adding pressure to that.
well, and they don't even have to have facts at this point that are anti-vaping. As long as they can muddy the water and make your mom think that vaping is somehow worse for you than smoking without actually having to put out any kind of research, as long as they can just throw enough chaff up to distract people, they've won.
Right. Well, I don't know about that. I heard it's bad for you. That's my
We don't
mom.
we
She
don't know if
same
it's
thing.
safe. You know, that kind of like Weasley bullshit, instead of actually coming out and saying, yeah, it's not nearly as bad for you as smoking. Instead, they emphasize, hey, we don't know the exact health ramifications because we haven't done 40-year longitudinal studies and we don't have a pile of 5 million dead people from it yet.
Right. That's the thing. It's like the truth campaign going after vaping and stuff. It's like, well, who's truth working for? Because like, if you're a smoker, like my girlfriend, and you've been trying patches and gum for 6 months, and you're still smoking, and then you try vaping for one day, and now you got 19 days quit. Like that's the only evidence we as vapors really need. Like it's like you can tell me they're bad for me, but I don't cough as much. I don't feel like shit. My mouth doesn't burn. I don't wake up at 3 a.m. fucking trying to smoke a cigarette because I'm tossing and turning. So it's really hard to convince a vapor that it's as bad for them, once they actually go through it. So I don't know. Keep on vaping, everybody. Keep on supporting it. Canada's going through the fight now. Canada's, that bill's ridiculous. Like I read through that bill, it is ridiculous. It basically they're making everyone change labels, right? So if you own a vape shop, you got to change your whole label. It's just like the TPD in England where they had to change bottle size, right? So you can't sell over 10 mils of a bottle. So if you have 30 mils of bottles, they've just trashed your whole line. No advertising. So your page that you've spent money to build, and no giveaways and emails and ID verifications. All these things, they're just ways to slow you from growing. So instead of spending your time working on a new product, you're spending your time conforming to these new laws, and it slows you up so that the tobacco company can try to make a play. I don't see that happening, though. And that's why they're buying vaping companies, because they're realizing, like, damn, we can't get into this market the same way we thought we could. We thought we could convince everyone to vape Marlboro vapes, but they don't realize that it's kind of like, I don't want to mess with you. I'm done with Marlboro. I'm done with Camel, and I don't want your vape either. And that's something I think that they don't really get, and that's gonna be probably the downfall, especially if Scott, the director of the FDA, comes through with that lower nicotine thing, and he's able to reduce the addiction process on the cigarettes, where like you smoke a pack but you don't feel it. Then you're gonna see a big switch to vaping for people that are nicotine chasers.
I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting to see how it all shakes out. At some point you just hope that some kind of reason takes over, but honestly, that's pretty pie in the sky at this point. We'll just be over here trying to, like, as they were saying in the chat, like, order our nicotine off the dark web and getting our flavors smuggled in.
Yeah, you're buying your nicotine in Bitcoin, fucking on tour.
I'm gonna start bootlegging Pink Guava by Flavora.
Yeah. I got original Inawera chocolate over here.
Yeah. And it's only been up at like 3 people's asses, so it's still good.
Yeah. This is as clean as it gets, folks.
Yeah. I got that good stuff, and it's cut all the way down with like baking soda and water.
You got to boil it to get it back to right.
You got to rock up your Inawera milk chocolate. Oh, whip it through the glass, as it were.
It's crazy. In Thailand, they go to jail for it. Like if you have vaping stuff, I think it's Thailand, where it's like they'll bust these guys that are selling bootlegs. And this guy will go to jail for like a smoke tank for years. But I think what you're going to see is a lot of countries around the world become pro vaping. There's going to be half that are against it, but there'll be half of the countries that don't do anything vaping related now will be big vaping. So if you're trying to do professional work, stuff like that, you're trying to get your name known, there's going to be markets, but they're not going to be the US market, and they probably won't be Canada market either. And UK is pretty tight with the TPD stuff. But you never know. You might be big in India. You might be the biggest mixer in India one day. It's a strange world going on. For all you guys that are mixing with an eye on professional work. Look at the other countries. Because there's definitely opportunity there. They're going to have their booms like the US had their boom. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Yeah. Well, thanks guys for tuning in. We hit an hour ranting and raving.
We only kind of look like crazy people now, so that's awesome.
We're just kind of crazy, folks.
Yeah.
But that's what we do. That's how we do it.
But remember, the government's out to screw you.
Remember, the government's out to get you.
There's black helicopters right around the corner monitoring your nicotine purchases.
Yeah. Have a great Sunday, everybody. We will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't. We're trying to hit that 1,000. just as a general goal in life. Thanks for joining, Emily. Thanks for stopping in, everybody. We'll see you later.